stayed up late, thought about our talk. Nothing left to be said, but the story continues, and I guess I'm in. Dug down deep, it's all coming back to me. The story is simple. My family, way out west, with a Hartford sign on the street, and the story of a crash back in 1973, where a motorcycle man lost a family, and the story of a girl with a flower in her hair, a child of the 60s with a child to bear. And they did what they could, her and the motorcycle man, but a left turn crash in Kansas ain't gonna bring you back home again. Dug down deep, 30 days of sleep is a second chance, all you need. Dug down deep, the doctors and the nurses and the flower child stayed with the motorcycle man every night and every day. Uncle Don came to get me, and with the cousins I moved in. Just a boy with a daddy who might never make it home again. Well, they said it wouldn't happen, and boy, if it did, when he woke up, wouldn't be much left of him. Got to know that she was praying as he looked into the light, and the motorcycle man opened up his eyes. Dug down deep, 30 days of sleep is a second chance, all you need. Dug down deep, sure enough it happened as the months moved along. Not only did he wake up, but he stood up and walked, and he swore it would be different, had he ought to do again. They raised up a little boy, a flower child and a motorcycle man, and it's dug down deep, it's a song inside of me. In a second chance is where I'll be. Dug down deep, it's a song inside of me. Is a second chance all you need. Dug down deep.
And that's how you do a monster fade, I guess. Hi, everybody. My name's Jeff Plankenhorn, and you are welcomed right now because you are welcome to 20 Question Tuesdays. I always point the wrong way. Where is it? It's over there. It's over there. And my guest this week is, of course, Chris Beall, everybody. And let's see, for a couple of quick announcements. If you've never been here before, what Question Tuesdays is this? Kind of early on in the pandemic, I just flipped my camera on a Tuesday afternoon one day, and I started doing a little bit of a workshop. I am a singer-songwriter, musician. I do it for a living, and I really, really love it. And I got on and I just started taking questions, and it was really, really cool because I got questions from songwriters, and I got questions from guitar pickers, and I got questions from producers and engineers and people who don't know anything about music, but they just love music. They know they love it, right? And all these questions were really, really beautiful and really, really awesome. Sheila Steele from Austin Music TV said, "Hey, would you like to broadcast this on our television station?" And I said, "Absolutely." So I got this funky, cool app, so I could broadcast to all the places. And on it, there was a little button with like a little person and a plus sign. And I was like, oh, I can invite guests. That'll be infinitely more interesting than me just sitting around talking about music. So I started getting guests. I think first was Michael O'Connor, then Jamie Harris, then Scrappy Judd, and then Bill Kirchen, and then Ruthie Foster, then Ray Wiley Hubbard. And now every single week on Tuesday, I have a different guest. And it's really become something I just absolutely love. And I mostly love it because it's your questions. And so if you're watching this on television, the questions come from the chat on one of the socials of Facebook or Twitch or YouTube. And we're also on austincityjams.com. And I always want to thank Kirby Walker and them for putting us on and archiving us and having people check out stuff. Let's see, a couple of quick housekeeping things. I have a brand new single coming out in 2 weeks. And please, if you guys don't mind, go and make sure you pre-save it. And let's see, what is it? Do I still have it up there? There it is. There, I'm doing self-promotion, Chris. I'm sorry. There it is. It's Together Alone. It's featuring the Resentments. And if you guys are interested at all, that is the link to do that. Here I am pretending that I'm a professional, or keeping up the facade anyway. There's the link for that. And then as far as the rest of the week is concerned, I moved my From Here to There shows to Monday nights. A bunch of you were there last night. It was a really, really cool show. I did some stuff for the birthdays of both my father and my dad, Outlaw, who is my father-in-law. I don't have in-laws. I have outlaws, which is pretty cool. And and I also did a song for Patreon followers, which was awesome. Last night's show was great. So there's a group for this group for 20 Question Tuesdays on Facebook, and there's a group for From Here to There where people can, request that I interview certain people and stuff like that. And then we also did Resentments on Sunday, and it was incredible. It was super, super fun. All 5 of us were back. Scrappy Judd and Miles Zuniga were in the same room. They've both been vaccinated. They're both way past 2. They actually played music together. It was insane. So that was pretty special, and you could see the joy on their faces as their cold black hearts began to warm. But we'll be back in 2 weeks, and we're gonna, before we start playing back at the Saxon Pub and stuff, not me because I'm still in Canada, but before they start playing back at the Saxon Pub, we'll probably do at least one more big online show, and that will be 1 year since we started the Together Alone shows with the Resentments. Let's see. Other than that, I think that's all of the housekeeping I need right now. So without further ado, Mr. Chris Beall. How are you, man? I don't hear you. Yeah, I don't hear you. Does everybody else hear Chris Beall? Let's make sure. Because if you guys hear him, then don't worry, Chris, something happens every single week. If it's not, I'm checking my AirPods. I'm going to get rid of my AirPods. Maybe my douchey AirPods are the problem. Because everybody hear Chris Beall out there, please let me know if you hear Chris Beall. If you do not, I'm going to get rid of these. Can't hear him. Okay, so you guys can't hear him either. Chris, will you go to the settings wheel? This sounded great in sound check, so we're going to get it in 2 seconds. There's a little wheel down at the bottom. You click on that, and then you click on, whether the mic's on or not. You may need to just like refresh it or sign back in. I can do this while you do that if you want. Yeah, nothing's happening. Here, let me turn you off and on. He's off. He's back on. Why don't you sign out and sign back in and we'll see, because we don't want to miss one word of what you have. You want to just like sign out. It may be the Safari thing that's being a pain in the butt. I could play the song again that we played in the intro. I would suggest just yell louder. Here, I'll tell you what. Why don't you sign out and sign back in, and I'm going to play that little intro, okay? There we go. Everybody, just so you can listen again, here comes Chris Beall's song. It is going to be the one that we used in the intro. It's called Dug Down Deep, and we're going to listen to it while we wait for him. Okay, here we go.
Heard you were leaving, going away. You left home, and I stayed up late. Thought about our talk, nothing left to be said. But the story continues, and I guess I'm in. Dug down deep, it's all coming back to me. The story is simple. My family, way out west, with a Hartford sign on the street, and the story of a crash back in 1973, where a motorcycle man lost a family, and the story of a girl.
All right, now we can't really do a monster fade there, but how are you now? No sound. No sound. Yeah, your microphone seems to be off somehow. Are you still in Safari? Because that's why I was trying to get you into Google Chrome. Yeah. Here, I'm gonna try one more thing and just see if it happens. I'm gonna get rid of my earbuds. Maybe I'll hear you when I get rid of them and go back to vault. But I doubt it. Hello. Maybe Chris will have to type this week. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Try to download Chrome on your phone or get on your iPad or something like that, but make sure you go through. Pat Byrne says you look great, though, and I'm going to agree with Pat Byrne on this. Okay, so whatever you got to do to try and get things going. Jeff's sound works. Chris does not. Yeah, and that's everywhere, you guys. It's unfortunate. We sounded fantastic during sound check. His velvet fog voice, All right, he's going to sign out and come back. So we're going to listen to some more Chris right where we were in that song. Okay, here we go.
Flower in her hair, a child of the 60s, with a child to bear. And they did what they could, her and the motorcycle man. But a left turn crash in Kansas ain't gonna bring you back home again. Dug down deep, 30 days of sleep is a second chance, all you need. Dug down deep, the doctors and the nurses and the flower child state with the motorcycle man. Every night and every day, Uncle Don came to get me, and with the cousins I moved in. Just a boy with a daddy who might never make it home again. Well, they said it wouldn't happen, and boy, if it did, when he woke up.
All right, we're going to try it again. Are you here?
Check.
We can hear him.
Hey!
Everybody. All right.
Come in.
Whatever ended up happening, what did you end up doing?
It started out like this,
Oh,
and then I tried it like this, and then like that, and then once I did that, everything.
okay, now we know. I mean, it's like, when you're in the studio and you got a buzz on your Telecaster and you just kind of turn to the side a little bit.
Right.
And you go, wait a second. Okay, there's no buzz here, but there's buzz here. But this is where there's no buzz and the tone is great, So once again, everybody, we're back and we got Chris Beall, and so this is fantastic. And let's settle in and relax. Chris Beall from the South Austin Moonlighters and many, 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 many other things. We're going to try and talk as much as we can. Go ahead and put your questions in the comments, and let's make sure that just give me a little time to type them sometimes, everybody, I have some really, really great questions. I'm going to start out with a nice, easy softball from Steve. Okay.
Right.
And I don't know if I think he's asking both of us, but I'm curious for you. He says, what gauge strings? I mean, it's as simple as that. It's a guitar question. Okay.
Yeah.
And, are you a light, a medium, or a heavy gauge string person? Do you like, telephone cables like Stevie Ray Vaughan, or do you like itty bitty strings like Frank Zappa, or what's the guy from ZZ Top?
Billy Gibbons.
Billy Gibbons. Teeny little strings, where he just same with Zappa.
Very good with the pick. Yeah.
Yep. So Steve's probably asking for himself, and he says Strat or Telly. I'm definitely a Telly guy. I don't have a Strat, but I have lots of different guitars, and they all have different gauges. Certain strings. Like, I also love the Gurf Morlix thing where you say, hey, what gauge strings do you have on there? And he says, I don't know. And you say, well, why not? And he says, because these were on it when I bought it. And he really, really will keep strings on for years.
He doesn't like new strings.
I hate new strings, personally.
Yeah.
I like to wear them in a little bit. Yeah. There's a great trick from Steve Cropper that I don't know if you know. He puts chapstick on strings when they're brand new. He just goes, because it ages them, and so they don't sound so bright and punchy. And
I wonder what that
they just
does
sound
over the long haul, like.
No idea.
Shorten the life of the string,
No, that's a good question.
Because, I mean, you and I, we both know that on an acoustic instrument, there's a sweet spot where the strings really start to sound great. But when they start to go, you know it. I mean, all of a sudden, you just can't get any life out of the instrument, So
they quite literally unravel.
Well, they just don't, and they don't. There's something about them. You start losing the definition and clarity, and all sorts of stuff begins to go away. And I'm surely that's the same on electric guitars.
I would think so too. I mean, there's probably a reason that we call them dead strings.
Yeah.
But we don't say that they're slightly outlived strings. We say they're dead strings. But okay. So what's your kind of go-to electric?
All right. So Steve is also a guitar player, and that's why he's asking these questions, I'm sure. On an acoustic guitar, it's generally 12s, which is relatively light. I do have 13s on a couple of acoustics that I have, but generally they are like open D or tuned down a whole step or something like that. I'm real careful about stringing one up at 440, with 13s on. So generally 12s on acoustic guitars. On electrics, it's generally 10s, and it kind of depends on the instrument as to what I can get away with. But I've been changing. I think 10s are a little too light, but it's not the low part of it that I mind so much. It's the high part. It's the the high strings. So I put a 10.5 on the top. That's
10.5. Now, I don't think
always
I've ever
do.
even heard of a 10.5.
Right. I always change out. I use my Ernie Ball strings, but then I change out the top.
Right on, right on. Now, are you the type of person that uses like the weird slick coated? I say weird. Some people love them, but
Yeah. What do you
you
mean,
know,
man?
I've had a hard time. Like, I've never been a fan of like the weird coatings that people put on
Yeah.
strings. I pretty much, maybe it's because I just got used to whatever was around that,
Yeah.
a good nickel or a good whatever, whatever was around was what I tended to use. But
Well, I think different guitars respond differently. So, those might be a cure all for something that doesn't have a lot of bite or top end. I think they can really brighten up a guitar a lot.
that's
But
interesting.
for the most part, yeah, I like the old wound strings much better. Like Martin has those Monell strings out,
Yeah,
and I found myself just kind of going with those. And yeah, they don't last as long, but I don't care. I like the way that they sound, initially, and I like the way they react. So I try to stay away from the coatings and the ultra
yeah, me
bronze
too.
this and all that too. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I
then
tend
then
to, but I
again,
hear people break those rules. They'll play with something, and I'll be like, "Really? You were playing those, and they sound
yeah,
great?"
yeah,
Or
yeah,
they sound great when this person plays them.
right,
For me, I'm kind of like I got really hooked on light top, heavy bottom, and
yeah,
light top being like 10 through 52s.
yeah.
I
I have a
love
lot of good
10 through
friends that are like
52s on a
that.
telly because it's like, well, I don't have to work as hard on the top end and I can still dig in. And then that bottom, if I'm going to play some sort of a power chord or thump the E, so I really love light top, heavy bottoms for that reason. But I will say this, Steve, when you switch strings on your electric, especially if you have a Strat, and this may be something you already know, that's a floating bridge. So you got to readjust it. You can't go from like, one set of, you can sometimes on a telly without readjusting because it doesn't have a floating bridge. It sits in one place. But when you put those heavier strings on, it's going to pull your bridge up.
Uh-huh.
And then all of the action's going to be weird, the tuning's going to be weird, the intonation's going to be weird, and so. But if whatever your favorite mom and pop music store,
Yeah.
that's a great thing to give them. I mean, man, they're going to do it for you nice and cheap. They'll do a nice quick setup if you want to try something.
Yeah.
Hey, we got a couple other people who are into the old 10.5s. Evan there from Abilene,
Evan.
welcome.
Uh, what Evan
Very,
doesn't
very
know
cool.
is I'm right down the road from him at the Dixie Pig.
Wait a second. He's going to walk in during the middle of the interview.
Yeah, when a couple people find out, they may come walking through the door.
Okay, without doing a call to action because we are on TV and we don't want to
Yeah.
get in trouble with the FCC.
Uh-huh.
But could you tell me you can legally tell me what kind of food you enjoy at this
This
establishment?
place?
What's the name of the name of the establishment?
Well, the name is called the Dixie Pig,
The
and
Dixie Pig. So I have some ideas.
if I could tell you just a brief story, I
You
wrote a
can.
song. I wrote a song called "Big Blue World" for the new album, and the inspiration for the song.
For the South Austin Moonlighters new
No, it's
album or
from
Chris
my
Beall?
solo album. My
Okay,
new solo
cool.
album.
So, all right.
So Big Blue World is inspired by this diner that I'm sitting at right now. And I thought it was only fitting that since I was in town and I was doing this interview, I thought, well, why don't I just run by there and set up in the back and do the interview from the Dixie Pig. So
Hey
anyway,
man, as long as
I had catfish today.
ooh,
Really good.
now are we talking like a bronzed catfish kind of thing? It's definitely fried, right?
Yeah, definitely fried. Mm-hmm.
Okay. What are your
Yeah.
sides?
Man, they had 3 different sides today. So Tuesday apparently is catfish is on the menu on Tuesday, and they had beans on the side.
Mm.
What else did I have? I guess I got distracted. Beans on the
That's okay.
side. Oh, fried okra.
I knew it.
Yeah.
God, I miss
No,
fried okra down. Man, I
okay.
miss it here.
Yeah. Well,
No
so I came
idea
up
what
to
it is
Abilene
here.
to help my dad. Where he's been in rough shape for a couple of years. He had a bunch of hospital stuff that he had to do, and then last year he couldn't do anything because of the pandemic, right? So
Sure.
he was just kind of stuck. So this year we decided we're going to make a couple of trips. We're going to go to these big swap meets that Dad likes to do, Those are the
Oh,
fun
so
times for him. And so that's what I'm up here doing. I'm getting everything ready to go, and we're going to go out to Fort Worth, where I have a big show this Saturday night. And we're going to hang out and be rednecks for a while with our family, and Dad's going to smile a lot. That's good.
well, this leads to a couple of other questions. You've done a perfect segue without knowing it. Okay, so let's talk real quick about a friend of yours who's actually in the South Austin Moonlighters with you, who also has been on this show before, Lonnie Trevino Jr. He asked if you would tell us a little bit about your penchant for old broken things.
Well,
He says that you love old broken things, and I kind of wanted to be like, okay, well, what's up with that?
Well, first of all, thanks to Lonnie, because Lonnie's handling South Austin Moonlighters business that I can't do right now. He's in a Zoom meeting with Steve Berlin.
The great producer.
Yeah, so that's awesome. But yeah, it can be old and it can be broken. There could be two different things. Be old and be, it's okay. It can be broken. That's okay. But old and broken, I've got a soft spot for it.
If it's old and it's broken, then you have some sort of thing for it.
Somehow I'm in, and I have to kind of take steps back from that, because I start with yes, and then I go, whoa, maybe I don't need that. That's too much.
I think I would particularly love an example or two of old broken things that you dig. You know, like give me an excited, sorry, I just read excited from Pat Byrne there, everybody, who's got a new album coming out. So let's all be on the lookout for that as well, that Billy Harvey produced. And examples of old broken things that were like some of your favorite things that you got a hold of.
So we'll do old and broken things, ... especially ones with wheels. So I love motorcycles. I'm a motorcycle guy and have been for a long time. So I have a bunch of, with my dad, I have a collection of old and broken motorcycles, and mainly they're broken because they are things that we could afford. If they were fixed, we'd never be able to afford them.
Sure.
I know how to do all that stuff, so I look at them and I see the diamond in the rough. I don't see the old and brokenness of it. I look at things and I see the possibilities in everything, and that's the creative side, I think, of me. And so what I have enjoyed over the last 7 or 8 years being an artist is being able to shift gears in my creativity. So I found earlier on that I would burn myself out playing music like all the time. If it consumed me, I couldn't write anymore because I didn't have any inspiration. So what I do is I try to shift gears and constantly be doing something creative, but maybe in a little bit different way. So I have motorcycles and things like that I that I work on and that I build and restore and fix. And then I have old tape decks and recorders and that sort of stuff too. I'm a hobbyist when it comes to that. I screw up more than I fix, but it's fun.
It's probably more about the process too. A couple things that this.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you.
Oh, well, I was going to say, I got in touch with Guy Forsyth not too long ago. I had ended up with a batch of microphones. He loves those old crystal microphones, the harp mics.
Yep.
And man, I ended up with 2 boxes full of them. And so I got in touch with him. I realized, I'm like, what am I doing with these things? I'm never going to use this stuff. You know what I mean? Guy, you got to take these things, So anyway, we're supposed to catch up soon and have a little project time and work on.
Have you ever tried this? I get accused sometimes in the studio of having a voice that's a little bit too sweet and a little bit too pure, especially on a song that's a little bit low down. And when I have a low down song, one of the cats that I worked with at the Zone in Wimberley, Pat Mansky, he would put up a SM7, and then above it he would put a harp mic.
Yeah.
And he would take the two and he would blend just a little bit of the harp mic in to my vocal. So if you listen to Sleeping Dogs, I'd say every track on that record, we blended in the harp mic. just to make it
Really?
not so pretty. And
Nice.
as it was on other records and other songs, it sounds great, but it's pretty cool. Another thing I wanted to say that really led me to that is I know a few songwriters that have this penchant for at least tinkering.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you if, Slade Cleaves is a Mopar guy.
Oh, right on.
And
I didn't know that about him.
big time. If you were on tour, Slade Cleaves, when we were on tour, he had this big blue, we called it the Blue Whale, the 82 Dodge van.
Yeah.
And he was all about Mopar and Mopar parts and stuff like that. Anything that went wrong when we were on the road, he would fix.
That sounds
And
like me.
it was kind of insane, man. We were kind of like, wait a second, you're gonna try and fix.
We're
We're
gonna climb under
here.
there.
You're gonna what? And then he would do it. And the reason he never went past 82. Yep, there's my first Lee's saying that's my first name drop of the show. What was great about it was, I lost my train of thought, but it was so incredible.
Down on you, pal.
Yeah, exactly. He said that, man, I would love how he could fix just anything. Oh, the reason that he had an 82 was because it was the year before they started having computer chips.
Right.
No computer chip meant he could fix it. But what I wanted to ask you about was, do you see a correlation? A lot of people out there who are songwriters don't realize that they don't always just come like from the heavens and boom, all of a sudden. We tinker. We tinker with them. And do you feel that way? What's your take on tinkering with tools versus tinkering with songs?
Great question, because that's totally true. I like to say I'm an equal opportunity songwriter. I'll take them however they come. But I have batches of ideas, and they're in places where I go back and revisit them. And so they're just like projects. They're just like that old motorcycle in the corner that maybe I've got the fuel system done, but the ignition system's not done yet. And I'll get to it. You know what I mean? I kind of know what to do or whatever. But when I revisit songs, sometimes they end up coming alive, just like an old motorcycle does. Yeah, that's great. It's a good point.
Well, and I guess some of them don't too. Some of them you work and work and work and work and work, and you're like, man, I tried, but it just never came to life, Yeah, and totally. And you have to be okay with that. I feel like sometimes, moving this part over to the chorus or like realizing like, wait a second, that's a perfect bridge, and I had it hanging out there, and I didn't know what I was going to do with it.
Yeah, totally.
All I needed to do was make a little bridge out of this,
Yeah. Wait a minute. It seems like I'm trying to write the same. I got 5 of the same thing. Let's put them all right together. Just like car parts or something.
Yeah, and I don't say that from experience because my dad loves working on old hot rods. And my father-in-law is my dad outlaw also works in it, and I've always had this thing where like I never ever had time to get into it.
Right.
But I get why it's so satisfying,
Yes, totally.
And my wife with projects too, she's a lot of times more handy than I am,
Yeah, I think that the trick is really as a creative. You can find an outlet in a lot of different ways, a lot of different things. And for us, for songwriters, one of the most important things to remember is keep the main thing the main thing.
Yeah.
I can totally get distracted and get off on a tangent and end up, spending hours and hours and hours just doing something that's not my primary responsibility. So they're good. I was just going to say that because I didn't get into cars until after I had decided I was going to quit playing. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, I grew up around them and stuff. I grew up at my dad's shop and everything, and I knew a little bit about stuff, but I'd never really built my own car or anything like that, not until I got to Austin.
Yeah.
And then when I got to Austin, I had decided, I wasn't really going to play professionally anymore or do any of that stuff. That's when I actually had time and I had money to be able to do some of those things. But if you're committed to being an artist in a music career, that's everything. It takes everything you got just to do that thing. And that's why so many artist guys aren't, more hot rod oriented, because every weekend is spent traveling down the road, or
doing the
every waking
hustle, whatever
hour,
the hustle is. But at
whatever
the
it is,
same
that's what you
time,
had to do.
I don't know about you, but I feel like the more time I spend with non-musicians and the more time I spend doing something outside, I really, really have, I mean, it's as simple as this. I have something else to write about.
Oh, totally. If
I
you're not
mean, I
living,
feel
you don't have anything.
like, what are you going to do? It's like, I can write about songs, or I can write about the business, or I can write about the
Right.
relationship I'm in.
Right.
After a while, you've exhausted all that.
Yeah, you got to
You
go to some
know?
garage sales, man. That's just, you got
I
to
mean,
live life.
yeah. It's
That's
funny.
it.
My wife's a horticulturalist and an arborist, and so every other day, I mentioned something to another cat I was co-writing with. I was like, "Look out! I'm writing a lot about the sea and trees and birds because that's all I see right now." But at least it's not another song about the road. No, there's nothing wrong with that. We need more songs about the road. It's just like I don't need more songs about the road.
Right.
Okay, let's get into some other stuff. I love this, man. So just to mention real quick too on that. So I know that your dad was a motorcycle racer, and that he did that for a while until he crashed, and kind of it was a really, really bad one, kind of a
Right.
near death kind of crash.
Yeah.
And but I wanted to know, in the song Dug Down Deep, was that a dad reference when you said Flower Child and Motorcycle Man? Is that your mom and dad, or who is
Yeah.
that?
Mom and dad.
Oh, man, what a beautiful reference to put right into a song. I love, if you were checking or you want to go back to this later and you guys listen to the song Dug Down Deep that we had for the intro, right there, you're kind of taking upon real life things and putting them into a song that everybody loves,
Yeah.
Um,
That's what I love to do. I mean, you know that about me. I really love to kind of take snapshots of something profound, and then describe it, and invite you into that story. Maybe it's the cover of a in my way, it's the cover of a book. And then you
Yeah.
get to kind of listen to it by peeling open the pages and kind of seeing what does this mean.
It's a beautiful analogy. John Hartford used to say that every line in a verse needs to be a chapter. He was like, if you can get a chapter into one line, because by the end of the song, maybe you got 12, maybe you got 20, but still, if you're going to tell the whole story, then you really got to compact stuff. And I always loved that, just because he wanted to make
That's
things.
a great analogy.
Yeah, well, it was freaking John Hartford,
Yeah.
Really, really great that you put that kind of thing into your songs, and
Well,
it definitely comes through.
Well, thank you. I can't wait for y'all to hear the new album, man. It's all of that.
Well, since we're talking about that, this is where they're going to be able to find information on that. And if you stick with us for a little while, we'll make sure. So now we're about kind of halfway through, and we're on Austin Music TV. Austin Music TV, thank you so much, Sheila Steele. Just for those who know, we do take tips, and I split them with my guest, and the deal is this. All I want to do is get Chris, a good $50 to take his wife out for some dinner or your next gas tank. Now that you got some gigs, we really appreciate it. It kind of helps the thing get going, keep going. So thank you very much for that. Also, thank you to, and if you don't have it, we totally understand. But it does help us get down the road, and it helps me keep this little show going, which I really, really love. Thanks to Austin Music TV, thanks to AustinCityJams.com, and everybody who tunes in every week who's on the Facebook group and leaves me questions. Let's see, we got more questions that I really, really dig.
All right, let's do it.
This is another really, really, really great question, and I love it because it's there's so many good answers for this, and I'm really interested to hear what your take on this question is. And let me go back to this while we do that. How difficult is it to decide which songs go to the public and which ones aren't ready yet? And it's from Craig, and he says, because I personally want to know why Cartersville Rain hasn't won Song of the Year.
Well,
it's a pretty big compliment.
I can. You want to go first, or you want me to go first?
Sure. I'll tell you what. It's usually more about you guys, but I will say this. I have the benefit of a couple of regular gigs like the Resentments, where I can try out stuff.
Right.
And I also, pardon me, have used my Patreon page and I know you guys do that too we should put both the Patreon pages in the thing so you guys can follow if you like. For those who don't know, we put out new music and we try out new music there. It's such a luxury to get feedback from fans and friends. And you may think you don't know anything about music, but you know what you like. And we need to hear that from you. Sometimes I really, really love the opinion of a non-musician or somebody who just really loves music because they say, you know, that line about the flower child and the motorcycle man hit me. They don't go, Jeff, it was really cool you used the diminished 7 chord right there.
Right.
You know, they're not going to say that. You know, they're going to say, man, like this one really hit me.
We hate hearing it, but it's the most beneficial thing in the world.
That's a good point, too. What do you mean by that? What do you mean?
Oh, well, I just mean, you know, I put all my heart and soul and I worked so hard.
Yeah.
And I've got, you know, 30 hours in this track.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of it. Here it is. And you get back like cricket chirps. Or, you know,
Yeah, meh.
I don't really know about that bridge. It's, you know, sometimes those are things that are hard to say, but they need to be said. And we have to, you know, we kind of have to gauge it. Like you said, you know, you'll test something out at a Resentment show and you're like, yeah, man, this is the greatest thing ever.
And just,
and you'll get done and it was like,
it's totally like that, man. For sure.
well, all right, you know.
Yeah, and sometimes you got to take it in stride. Sometimes you do know. You know, sometimes you know. It's very, very rare, though. So what do you do? I mean, is it Patreon? Is it the South Austin Moonlighter shows? Is it just going out playing solo with a guitar? Is it Stephen King in his book on writing says everybody has to have that preferred reader. And so he has someone that he always gives his stuff to.
Oh, wow.
And he writes for them. And it's his wife. And I can't do it with my wife because she's just like a little too honest. And she's like, I don't want to tell you. I don't want to hear it until it's out because I love you.
Right. I want to keep this relationship together.
Pretty much. But do you have like a preferred listener or somebody that you bounce songs off of? That's another benefit of co-writing too.
Yeah, I think I think that I do. I'm not consciously aware of it too much, but but now that I'm kind of unpacking that, I do think that I have 2 or 3 people around me that are songwriters that I highly trust their opinions on. And
they're not gonna just tell you, yeah, man, this is incredible.
Right.
They're gonna dig in a little bit.
I'll get something. Either I won't get much of a reaction, or I'll get a really good one, or So there's that, and then I think there's a window too of when a song is coming alive. You have these windows of when it's going to gain traction as a presentable idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I do.
Let's say Cartersville Rain, for instance.
Okay.
I experimented a couple of ways with playing that groove, and over a month and a half, maybe 2 months, and then that extends into about 6 months. So there's this window when that song is kind of doing, it's moving around, and then every little decision that you make as an artist, and especially as we get older,
yep,
we're hopefully quick, precise, and lining up with the idea or the original intent of that song, and then 6 months go by, and you either have something or you don't. And I've got some that they're good songs, but I can't make them happen. I can't make
that's
them
for sure
come to life.
So you have a pretty long gestation period, right?
Yeah, I do.
For certain songs. Yeah.
I've always been that way. And I constantly go back and forth. So I'm like, until a record's actually done,
mm-hmm.
I'm not done.
Yeah.
I'll constantly, there'll be pieces and bits and things, constantly going all the time. And so yeah, I go back, man, I've even got songs from 7-8 years ago that are still little pieces and bits of ideas that are really good. That
oh man, that's very Willis Allen Ramsey of you.
They'll make
They'll
make it into a song at some point.
Yeah.
I've got my own little back catalog of parts waiting to be.
I think that's really great, and we keep them all in different places too. Like it'll be a little on your computer, it'll be a stack of legal pads, it'll be voice memos where you just sang it, it'll be whatever, and you got to have all those now because it used to be we were stuck if we didn't write it down immediately, and now we've got lots and lots of different ways where we can save that little tiny bit of an idea. What was it? Another cat I was reading about. I'm not a huge fan or anything, but I like his stuff. And Randy Newman was saying that he was saying that he will rewrite songs even after they're recorded. He doesn't give a crap. He's like, if I find a better wording for this song, I don't care if it's a hit. I'll change it.
He'll do whatever he wants to do.
He'll change it when he's playing it live.
I got to plug in my phone. Let's make sure my volume doesn't go away.
Okay.
All right. Am I still there?
You sure are. Crystal clear. Crystal clear. Crystal clear. Okay, so this is good stuff. I really love that question from him as well. Here's another question from Steve. And it's who do you consider your mentor as far as, and I'm sure, Steve, hopefully you're talking about music, because it could be about just about anything. It could be a life lesson. It could be a guru. But musically, like who's somebody that you look up to mentor wise?
Well, let's break it down into categories. I think that it's for me. I have wondered that when I got back into playing music and being the creator of music, I had to kind of come to grips with. I come to, and you're the same way, Plank. We're guitar players, so we think like guitar players. We're songwriters, so we think like songwriters. We're performers, so we think like performers. You know what I mean? We're business owners, so we think like business owners. So there's a bunch of different...
It's a lot of hats.
There's a lot of stuff that's wrapped up in that. So the guys that I tend to really look up to are guys like Kenny Greenberg. If you'll look him up, Kenny Greenberg is the guitar player for Kenny Chesney nowadays.
Yep.
But Kenny's been around a long, long time. And I saw Kenny... Sorry, Kenny. We've all been around a long, long time now.
Oh, yeah.
I saw him on TV when I was, 26 years old. And it was him and Ashley, his wife, and there was an HBO special. And for the first time in my life, I saw this vision of a guy who hopefully doesn't get us in trouble with FCC, but he kicked ass.
I know, that's fine. Yeah.
And he was married and committed. You know what I mean?
Oh, I do know that's a big thing about being on the road. Can you be on the road in a successful relationship? It's good to see that it can happen.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was a huge influence on me because that's what I wanted. I wanted a life that mattered, and I wanted all those things too. And I hadn't been around that kind of thing. I was always told I was not allowed to do that sort of thing as an artist.
Yeah.
So to have
they always have this. Not to interrupt, I apologize, but there is this image of the tortured musician. There is the image of you're never going to have a solid relationship. There's the image of this is what it takes to do what we do, and it's baloney.
Right.
Because there's plenty of people who have done all of those things and broken all of those rules, and they're out there. And when you see them, you go, I can do it. All I have to really do is figure out how I'm going to do this.
Right. That's it. That was what I knew, that I had the liberty to figure it out on my own at that point. So anyway, Kenny Greenberg is a big influence, mentor, and playing wise too. I learned a lot of stuff from Kenny. That's why I moved to Nashville in the first place. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I learned a lot from him. Walt Wilkins is another example of that.
Yeah.
Someone a little closer by.
I'm gonna put him. I'm putting these people into the chat as well, so that folks can look them up. If they don't already know, then they can look up Kenny Greenberg and Walt Wilkins.
Yeah, Stephen Bruton was one of those guys that I never knew Stephen in his earlier career or earlier life, but I had researched his work before I ever met him. Before I even got to Austin, I knew who T.S. Bruton was because I was always reading the liner notes of these CDs, right? I loved his approach to music. Yep, I loved his approach to music. He was Texas. He sounded like Texas. He was a great writer. He was a great guitar player. And then, later in life to make some really bold decisions and have to make some of the commitments that he had to make. I felt very inspired by that as well. And being, to be honest, I mean, if it weren't for the Saxon Pub Sunday night shows, I don't know where I'd be. To be honest, I used to go see Stephen on Sunday nights, and that
Yep.
was my inspiration. That was what got me through a really, really tough time in my life. And so I want to be like that. So that's a big inspiration for me.
Let's
And I could
talk for
probably
a
go
minute.
on a few more, but you do some.
Well, no, I was going to ask, and thank you. Show's not about me, but with regard to Stephen, just because I have a little bit of knowledge and didn't know him that well either when he was with us. I knew him a little bit, and he was really cool, and was really cool to me. But I hear that he was not just cool to me, but pretty much everybody who came up to him that was kind of doing what we do. He had a soft spot.
Genuine, yeah.
He had a genuine soft spot, and and knew that he was kind of, for better or worse, a mentor to a lot of people. He's another one like Kenny Greenberg in that you could hand him you could toss him on a lead on a song he'd never heard before, and he'd nail it on a number of different instruments.
Yeah.
But then he could write a song and, throw some little play of words in that just makes you kind of just really, really think about it for the rest of the night, and he was always really, really good at flipping phrases, doing what's known as anti-metabole, that's the term for, I had to look it up, for, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself, is anti-metabole, or if you love what you do, you'll do what you love, those kind of things, where you flip. And so he'll almost always have in a song, I used to think my trouble was caused by being caught. Or, my girl's not a dish, she's a whole set of china, was one of my favorites. These are the kind of things that songwriter. But then you look at him and he's also producing records. He's also, during his time was acting, and also was like an avid tennis player.
Was he? I remember
he
when
was
he
a
used to wear
big tennis guy.
Gig, He used to wear those tennis shoes.
He was a big tennis guy. He'd play these tennis slam things that I ended up playing later. But long story short, yeah, he was the guy that kind of showed us, no, it's okay to do everything. You will be a jack of all trades, master of none. It's like, if you want to be not a master, but you won't like have your name in lights necessarily.
Yeah.
Because you did all of these things. You
Yeah.
didn't just do one.
Yeah. And guys like you and me,
cool.
we were totally okay with that, because that's really what we were aiming for. That's really what I am aiming for. I don't care about, the big charts or anything like that. What I care about is people that want to be out there and at that show, and they want to hear something that means something to them. That's what I'm all about. And I'll do everything that I can to make that moment happen, whether it's recording it, singing it, writing it, playing it.
It's all part of the love. And like, I had a guy he actually moved recently to Texas, but believe it or not, from Ann Arbor, and he had a song when I was in college. It was, I don't want to be rich and famous, just well off and well known. Nice. And I was always like, yeah, man, it's like, cool, but my mentor, biggest, Ray Wiley, when I first moved to Texas, I lived with him. He's the one that brought me to Texas, everything like that. He asked me one time, he said, what do you want to do when you move to Texas? And I said, well, I just want to play music I love with people I love, and, maybe have a family, we'll see. And he was like, do you want a Jaguar in your driveway? And I went, but I don't know.
I haven't thought much about that.
I said, probably not. And then he said, you can do it. And it was just like, oh, okay, well, wait a second. It's like, okay, well, all of the things that I listed to him, he was like, oh, yeah, that you can do,
Yeah, what year would this have been?
Probably 99. We met in 98 and 99, but I moved early 2000 to Texas.
But think about it, during that time, Ray wasn't all that popular or famous. He was a staple in the industry, and we all looked up to him. but he didn't have, many, like a hit record, or,
No.
there wasn't a big Americana thing. Ray, he was just a
He
guy.
did the slow burn, man. He
Right,
grinded
he was
it out.
writing songs and kept doing it, and you know what I mean. So he's telling you all this stuff before he
got big.
Before he even got there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What's really interesting about him and one of my other mentors, the two biggest mentors that I can tell you about, but I've had a lot, are probably Ray. First of all, 20 years ago, Ray and Ruthie Foster. And the thing was, I'm on my first tour with Ray. I haven't even moved down here yet, there. And we go to a house concert in Columbia, we go to a house concert in Columbia, South Carolina, and there's like 25 people there, and Ruthie Foster's opening. And so it's Ruthie opening for Ray at a house concert with like 25 people. This is my introduction. Okay. And watching their careers and watching them both blossom over time and doing it their way was huge for me to just go, these are the people that I need to look up to. Other quick mentors that I have to mention, Joe Ely for sure. And taught me so much about being on the road and being in bands. And,
man, the first time I ever met, sorry, just a little segue.
No, please. You're the guest.
The first time I ever met Jeff was at a Joe Ely show that I was mixing. I was there at what's his face's place up north, the Roost.
Oh yeah,
remember the Roost?
Yeah, short-lived but beautiful place.
Right. And I heard Jeff playing. I think you were playing one of those Hussenborns or whatever that thing's called on that
the
one.
Weisenborn, yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
whatever. It was a plank. It was probably my plank guitar, but yeah.
Yeah, and it was incredible. I'm like, I don't even know this guy. Who is this guy? And that's the first time I ever met Jeff Plankenhorn. Sorry, Joe Ely is the mentor. Go ahead.
Well, Joe Ely, and then Scrappy Judd Newcomb too, because when I came to town, I saw Scrappy, and I was like, this is it. I saw Scrappy Judd, and I said, he writes his own songs, and they're brilliant. He plays with anybody and sounds ridiculous. He's a young Keith Richards, and he looks cooler than any of us and does not try at all. And then, now I get to tour with Scrappy, and we get to swap songs, and we get to...
Scrappy's Scrappy's the guy that answers the age-old question. I mean, sometimes when we look at ourselves in the mirror and we wonder whether to button that button or not. That one other button, the one above the one.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just don't know, but you look at Scrappy, and
He also taught me that women's sunglasses make men look very rock and roll.
Yes, I can totally see that.
Yeah, there was a good 10 years where I don't think he wore men's sunglasses once.
Yep,
and it just way buttoned down, almost too low. Yeah, he was all kinds of cool then, and he's still all kinds of cool.
Did he wear a scarf then?
I don't know if he had a scarf. Was he much of a scarf guy? No, but he always had like a bone around his neck or something. Something like that. Yeah, Scrappy's one of ours. Hey, we're getting close. Okay, so if we end up going off air on the television show, Austin Music TV, thank you so much for having us. Chris Beall here. Let me put up some other information real quick. First of all, just to say for the television people out there, thank you for the tips. We split the tips, just making sure I get a tank of gas or a nice meal for my guest. It's a little bonus for what we do and keep the wheels rolling. So thanks for that. Also, the guest is Chris Beall, and you can find out about his music at chrisbeallmusic.com or at the South Austin Moonlighters.com. Now, before we go off the air, I always like to ask one question, and then we'll have one more question, I think, from Kate Howard that we'll make sure that we get. Kate, if you can stay with us, we'll make sure we get that online if we can. We'll stay online for a couple of minutes just after the television show goes off. My question every week to my guest is this. What is your guilty pleasure music? I want to know what you listen to that you probably wouldn't tell your friends. That's the sound of Cabbage Alley, which means that we're going off the air soon. I always play Cabbage Alley for that. But yeah, man, because what happened was when I first started doing the show, people asked me, and I said I'm a Fanilow, and when I was a kid, my mom used to play Barry Manilow for me,
God.
and right next to like, the White Album and Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life and classical music and, Running on Empty, it
Yeah.
was tucked in there. And she loved it. And so I didn't really have much choice. So I have this soft spot. I don't go and listen to it myself, but I have a really soft spot when Can't Smile Without You comes on or Copacabana. I get a warm, fuzzy feeling whether I like it or not. And I'm not so embarrassed. We call it the guilty pleasure music. We've had Spice Girls. We've had, of course, ABBA. Some people like free jazz. They don't want to tell you. Some people like metal. They don't want to tell you. What do you listen to that's kind of like out there that people wouldn't expect that you listen to? Doesn't have to be guilty.
Wow. Okay. That you wouldn't expect that I would listen to.
Yeah. Like,
I would think that some of the pop stuff from years ago. I'm a fan of James Mercer, the Shins.
Oh, the Shins. Okay.
Yeah, I love that stuff. He's a great songwriter. And then you got Muse.
Muse. Okay. So now I wouldn't expect that you were into Muse. That is definitely pop.
Remember the Audio Slave?
Oh, I remember Audio Slave for sure. I don't know how guilty that pleasure is. Maybe that's on the border.
Stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good stuff. Well, man, I like it.
If there's anything else that would just be really awful. Oh,
anything on the line of Barry Manilow.
There you go. So when I was growing up, I was listening to both mom and dad's music.
Right.
Dad's music happened to be 50s music, 50s and 60s. Right. Okay.
Bubblegum.
Yeah, so there's some bubblegum stuff back there. Some of that Buddy Holly stuff I know like the back of my hand.
Yeah.
I grew up listening to Buddy Holly. Even the stuff that you don't ever hear anymore, I kind of know because I listen to it every day. So there's a bunch of that that I've got. But there's Jan and Dean. Do you remember the kind of the
doo-wop groups? What's
Jan
that?
And Dean.
Yeah.
So there's some.
I think Jan and Dean totally counts.
Yeah,
I'll give you that. Jan and Dean is right in there where it's like oh yeah, you're a Jan and Dean fan. Okay, cool. No, man, I love it.
That would be a good one. Yeah. I guess that's it. But I the things I find myself listening to the most are things that move me. So I spend most of my time listening to things that move me. Which is keeping, with what I do and who I am. So it's not a surprise.
They all end up influencing us, and there's no rhyme or reason. I think one of the reasons I love to ask that question is so that people feel that it's okay to love whatever you love, and you don't have to feel like some tastemaker has to tell you, or that if you like something that's outside of your purview, every artist I know likes something that's way outside of what you think they're into.
Yeah, I think along those lines, it would be important to acknowledge that I'm a motorcycle guy, but I don't fit I don't address the culture. I don't look the culture necessarily. I don't go to the things, you know what I mean? So that is kind of a guilty pleasure of mine that most people may not know about me. And it's weird to be in those positions because you don't really fit in anywhere at that point. Like I don't belong in that demographic.
You certainly have
a motorcycle race on TV. All the commercials are trying to sell something to someone absolutely not like me. It's amazing.
Thanks, Austin Music TV. We're going to stay online. Okay, so we're off Austin Music TV right now, which means that the good news is we can do as many calls to action as we want. And I would like everybody to just go ahead and be ready for the Chris Beall album that is coming out. And finding out of him, go to the chrisbeallmusic.com website and the southaustinmoonlights.com to find out everything you need to do. The last question that we have comes from Kate Howard. And man, this is a really, really, really tough question, Kate. A lot of times Kate asks the questions that really kind of blow everybody's mind. And this is that, but it's kind of tough because I have no idea how I could answer this. If you could choose only one, if you could only choose one, which would you rather do for the rest of your life? Play guitar or write songs? I mean, how do you
Mine
Ooh,
would be write
that's a
songs.
good question. You think songs?
Yeah, I can hear the guitar in my head. I don't need to play it.
I'm
You
kind
know
of
what
the
I mean?
same way. We get to a point where we don't need it to write.
Right. Yeah, I can
You
hear
know?
all the things. Maybe that would go away if I didn't play it so much. But yeah,
Nah.
I've realized that I really only play guitar to support songs. So songs would be my number one.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I probably would lean towards songs too. If you asked me,
Years ago, that might not have been the case.
it might have been the case because it felt like an extension. It's just like, okay, well, I'm speaking this way,
Mm-hmm.
and then there came a point where I really, really, really wanted to focus. It's like, okay, I've done my 10,000 hours playing guitar, no question. Okay, whether it shows or not, I've done it.
You've done them, yeah,
Okay,
right.
yeah,
That's the way
I've done my 10,000 hours, whether you can tell or not, I've done it. I have not done 10,000 hours of songwriting, and I think that there is a little bit of something to. I don't necessarily believe in writing in bulk. Like, I'm not a song a week person. I don't do those games anymore. They don't work for me. But where you write a song a week,
Yeah,
they
no, it
don't work.
doesn't work for me either. I mean, I
Yeah.
can use that as motivation to get a couple of them done, but that's all I'm going to do.
They're never great. And when somebody says, "Hey, I've written 500 songs," I'm like, "That's really, really cool. Do you remember them?"
Yeah. How many are good?
How many are good,
Yeah.
But for some people, and I know these people who are great writers, like a Shawnee Kilgore or a Bob
Yeah.
Schneider, that weekly regiment is
It
huge
works.
for them.
Yeah, it works.
And
for
it
them.
works.
Totally.
But
Yeah.
that's two completely different songwriters, and I love their music.
Right.
And
they
they
use
are
that as
song a week
motivation.
people.
Yeah, they use
Yeah.
that their motivation to get behind it and do it, and it
Yeah.
works for them. It's great.
I guess finding what works for you is really, really the key more than anything, and taking it where. What did you say earlier that I really liked? And I'm the same way. Like, I don't care how it comes. I just want another song. If it comes from a line that I heard in a movie, great. If it comes from playing a mandolin line, great. If it comes from writing with a friend, great. If it comes from great
Wow.
pain,
Yep.
great.
But the music happen first. The lyrics happen first.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Whatever.
It doesn't matter. I'll take it either way. But you said something earlier that was to the effect of that, and I really liked the way you phrased it. I'm sorry if I forgot.
I'm an equal opportunity songwriter. I'll take them.
That's what it was. Yeah,
There
you
go.
take them as they come. Well, we're going to leave on that
I'm
note.
full of them, man. I got all these one-liners. I got them written down here on this napkin, and I
Do you?
refer to them as needed.
That's good. That's good. I always like when somebody's.
I have a question.
Oh,
I have a
okay.
question. I don't know if we're signing off with this or not, but so along the lines of, if you just had one thing that you could do the rest of your life, would it be guitar playing or songwriting? Those types of questions have always plagued me because I do have a way of extrapolating circumstances in my head. It doesn't mean they're right or wrong, or that the conclusions are right or wrong, but things affect me deeply, and so I wonder about them. And so I wonder about what if I had a choice to lose a sense, what would it be? Would it be my eyes or my ears? And that's a big question right there, because all of a sudden, if I'm deaf, I can still see the beauty of the world around me. But if I lose my sight, I can't see the beauty of the world around me. But the thing that I love the most, I can still hear.
It's a great question, and I think that it would be easy for me to say, well, I work with my ears, and that's true.
True.
And I could also say that I don't have the eye. I will not ever choose artwork without running it by people. And I don't have the eye, and like, I want it, and I'm inspired by it, and it's beautiful. If I'm out in nature, and my wife and I are taking a walk, she'll point something out, and there's no way I would have seen that.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I never really had that. So I would probably give my eyes up first, because I notice sounds kind of incessantly and enjoy them. But yeah, I think of the senses, I would probably give up that. I'd also probably give up smell, because even though smell is really more important to people than you think, um, I don't have an acute sense of smell as far as like food and as far as taste, and I could never be a chef.
Well,
When I cook,
maybe if
I just have to
allergies went
overload
along with it, like
spices.
if you could get rid of smell with all the allergies and everything, and it'd be gone.
Yeah, then maybe I'd love it. Yeah.
That'd be
But like when I'm
incredible.
cooking, I don't notice. I have to overload spice, because then I'm going to notice. And I hate bland food. Like I hate stuff that doesn't have anything.
Mhm.
I went to a Russian restaurant once and I was like, "Oh my God, like this is like crazy." Anyway, and Kate Howard says with song games, it's about keeping the songwriting muscle in shape and it's about practice. I get that.
I
A
get
lot
that.
of people really, really, really love that. I'm just saying that for me, it's counterproductive. It
Yeah.
takes away time that I could be spending. I write way more songs when I'm not in the game,
Yeah.
and end up co-writing with people and spending time on that. And for some people, it's like I said, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But for me, it's You also, did you say you had a surprise? I forget. Was there a surprise?
That's what I was going to tell you is that here, let me unplug. I can walk around.
Yeah.
So years ago, I can't even get in the frame.
That's okay. You'll get there.
It's back there. The diner is back there.
Yay. Hi, everybody.
Around the corner, everybody's there. But years ago, I popped in here and I was working on Dad's stuff. Trying to move him out of the house. And I hadn't been here in years and years and years, but this place has been here. It was old when I was a kid.
Yeah.
That's how long
It's one of those.
It's a staple of Abilene. And I remember being in this place with my grandma. She used to bring me over here and we'd have coffee. Of course, everybody then, sat and smoked, and everybody here, they're all lined up smoking here.
That was a different time.
5-year-old kid, or however old I was. But anyway, just fond memories of that time. And I came in, a few years ago, and there was a wall of snapshots of all these different people, all these people that were considered family. They were people that come to the restaurant. They hang out here. They know everyone's name, and that just really struck me. And I was amazed at the ability of this place, in one way or another, to stay around for
To
so
survive.
long, over so many generations, and different people that walk through the door. And it was in that moment that I was inspired to write that song, "Big Blue World," on my new album. And so, yeah, the story is I took a motorhome to the place across the street that's an old friend of Dad and mine who is going to work on it. I barely got it there just in time to walk over here to the Dixie Pig, which was my plan, to get in here so I could do this thing. I'm probably going to have to go climb back underneath that motorhome here in just a minute to get ready to go to this next place, So anyway, it's all for my dad. I get myself into these things, but it's all for him, and it's all for this trip that we're getting ready to make down to Fort Worth. But that was the surprise, is that I'm broadcasting
So cool, man.
from the place that I was so inspired to write that song from. I can't wait for y'all to hear it. It's a great tune.
I can't wait for everybody to as well. One more time, and I'll put in the thing, in the captions, one more time. My guest has been Chris Beall. Here's chrisbeallmusic.com. I'm going to put it here so you guys can just directly click right straight through. Sorry, I'm not a great typer. Typist. I said typer. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Chris Beall. Stay on with me for a second when we go off here. Everybody, thanks for being here. Next week, check the Facebook group, and we'll see who's on next week. I can't remember off the top of my head. Is it you, Kate? Because you got that record coming out? Or there might be one more week. No, I think next week is Patrice Pike. And then Kate Howard. So,
Cool.
Two badass ladies for the show. Yeah, man, that's really great. This was a great conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.